Today, we're going to cover one of my favorite topics, something that I've really been looking forward to. And the person who is sitting at the table here is the one who, well, I guess I'm the one who got me into it, but got me into it seriously and got me intimately familiar with the swamp of DC and
I'm
everything
sorry.
that is involved. So here we are back with Joe Signorello with So You Want to Run for Congress.
You don't. It's
There
the
we
short
go.
of you don't.
Episode wrapped.
Yeah.
Joe Signorello, who worked in venture capital,
Yep.
lived in Europe, came back after Donald Trump won the first time in 2016, flipped his town red to blue, and then decided to run for.
State Senate first, and then I lost that, and I said, not painful enough. I said, let me run for U.S. Senate and put my entire career on the line. And then my car got tailed for 2 weeks, which we can talk about later. And then I switched to Congress, which is a more sensible
I think we
race.
skipped over the emotional trauma for your campaign manager in your U.S. Senate race.
There was a
who
lot of
thought
emotional
there
trauma.
were people in the woods.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'll get to that later. Yeah.
We'll get to that. So what made you decide to go from state Senate to, U.S. Senate?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be very blunt here he's persona non grata now, and as well he should be. But John Fetterman, he had very well funded parents and clearly a smart play. He was the mayor of a small town in Pennsylvania, Braddock, Pennsylvania, and he was on the Daily Show and getting his name out there. And I was like, how is this schlub out there? Makes sense now when you realize he had rich parents who bankrolled it all. Um, but what he did in wanting to kind of further his political career was he ran for U.S. Senate as the mayor of Braddock, lost. Because he gained kind of some notoriety, he got pulled into as lieutenant governor and then ran for Senate again and won, right? So, I was kind of done being mayor and just wanted to go out with a bang and thought, U.S. Senate was the right way to do it. But also there was a moral impetus, right? When I first got elected, Bob Menendez was under investigation for the first time. And I was like, this is icky that nobody's saying anything. And then I knew the second time was happening. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the indictments came out and all the bad news came out. So I got out ahead of it. And I was technically the first person to primary Bob Menendez. You're welcome. Yeah, all politicians are crazy. I thought that was a good moonshot, but B, I was pissed at the party that nobody wanted to call him out. Now, of course, after the indictments come out, everybody becomes, holier than thou and is like, oh, well, I've been thinking about this for years and I want to do this now. But, I was the first one who thought it was right to call out our party's bullshit when it needs to be called out. I mean, look, this is also post-Trump, right? So we're going to spend 5-6 years saying Trump is a crook. And then when we have somebody who has gold bars in their shirt, we're not going to call that out as a party. Feels a little hypocritical.
I think one important note is that at the time, the county line still existed in New Jersey.
At the time, the county line still existed, which for those who don't know, it was a ballot structure where the frank question, in some areas, the ballot structure is random, right? And you just, they draw straws on who's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Union County in the state of New Jersey, in a lot of counties, the county apparatus gets to bracket all of their preferred candidates in one row. And the lawsuit that came out, contested that was an unfair advantage, right? You can argue whether or not the structure was okay or not. I don't like the way it happened, and I don't like the way there's a lot of people who were perfectly fine to enjoy those luxuries, found issues with it later.
Empirically, it was flawed. The ballot
100%.
structure, it was a more than 30-point advantage
Correct.
for having the county endorsement.
But legislating from the bench is never the right answer, and it should have been done through an actual legislative process, not a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ran for Congress because I knew that there were heavier hitters coming into this U.S. Senate race. And candidly, jokes aside, as soon as I announced, the Menendez camp got Oppo research on me. I had a car tail me definitely for at least 2 weeks. It was scary for my friends and family. You start thinking about where does my brother work? And do they know people there? What does my dad do? And do they know people there? Entrenched senators can be really intimidating. So when I when I knew other people were coming in the race and I knew that they had a much better chance than I did, I felt like the right thing to do was to pivot towards a more realistic race, which was US Congress. And that's how I got in the NJ7 race.
Yeah. I remember I got the phone call
Yeah.
that was from a mutual colleague, someone else, another politico who said very candidly said, "You'll never work in politics again once people find this out." And
Here we are.
I called you
We
and
survived.
freaked out, thought that there were people hiding in the woods
We
by my
survived.
parents'
We
house that were
survived.
trying to,
Yeah.
take me out. It was but we did survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody's favorite clueless co-host Frank is back with another question. You preempted one of my questions about the county line. I kind of knew that already.
Yeah.
However, I thank you for the explanation. But so the last time you were on the podcast, we talked about like literally just like the logistics of running for mayor of your town, and then also for state senate, kind of the differences there.
Yep.
But when it comes to U.S. Senate
Yep.
and then a
Congress.
congressional district, for the House of Representatives, like. This might be a really stupid, naive question, but like you had to collect all these signatures for Senate. When you pivoted to Congress, could you just like say those signatures still count as long as those people were in the district? Like, you know what I mean? Just walk me through like literally like logistically from like a paperwork kind of standpoint,
Yeah.
what you had to do to pivot like that.
Yeah. So one thing that I forgot to mention on the last pod was the finance aspect of it, which is the
Yeah, sure.
most important piece. Not that it's not important at a local level, but you can make it work at a local level with less
Mhm.
money. When it's federal, it's all about the money, right? So the precursor to all this is registering with
The FEC.
FEC.
The Federal
Elections,
Elections
yeah.
Commission.
And
Okay.
so really good question. So you there's two things you need to register. Is
Mhm.
one is like personal financial disclosure, like
Mhm.
it's an ethics thing, like making sure that I guess you're not doing anything nefarious, even though like Congress, am I right?
It's basically disclosing the nefarious things
Yeah.
that you are doing if you are in office.
Correct. Whatever Tom Kane Jr. is doing. So
He bought a
Allegedly.
natural gas stock today, so
allegedly.
he can't show up to vote, but he can
Buy-
insider trade.
Yes. Anyway, allegedly. When it comes to finance, it's actually relatively easy because federal to federal dollars can transfer over.
Sure.
State to federal is more hairy, and there's limits around that. But as certain people did, is if you have a big bankroll in a congressional district, you can just all of a sudden make that a Senate stockpile of money.
Mhm.
The reality of it is in my world, and a lot of congressional candidates are this way, you don't even make it to getting signatures because, you announce a year before it happens, and the viability is not whether or not you get signatures, it's how much are you fundraising, right?
Okay.
And, we'll talk about it, right? But part of the reason why, it's actually kind of crazy in hindsight because I fundraised a lot more than congressional races this year did.
Yeah.
But in the land of the land when we had the line, it was super important because people would give you the line if you looked financially viable, right?
Mhm.
And second, like I was running against, so Sue was like super well funded. So Sue Altman was the main competitor I was running against.
In the primary.
In the primary, yeah.
Yep.
For Congress.
For Congress,
Congress.
yeah. After I switched, yeah. For Senate, I knew Tammy Murphy was coming in for Senate. That's why I kind of ducked out, right? I just knew this is the governor's wife. She was going to come in with a ton of money. And I actually really liked Tammy, although people were not happy about that run. And then Andy Kim came in later. Great Senator Kim. But for Congress, my main, funny enough, Sue's, I think, his chief of staff.
Was his district director.
District director.
Or state director.
Yeah.
Sorry, his state.
So Sue was the head of the Working Families Party, really well connected around the state, and I actually think look, whatever, she ran a hell of a primary and fundraised a ton of money. I think part of it was also the gubernatorial race was the year after the congressional race,
Mhm.
and I think there were a lot of people that didn't want to piss off the left flank and make the Working Families Party mad. So I think there was a lot of coalescing around her early. But whatever. I mean, look, this isn't sour grapes or whatever. Like, she won and
It's not.
I mean, I think it's not a mystery to say that like NJ7 is a very purple district it's an R+1 district. For those who don't know, it's Cook ratings, like how
It's a toss up right now.
Yeah, but
They've moved it
the demographics actually skew Republican.
Yeah.
So Working Families Party is like super left wing, right? Not exactly a natural fit for that district. So
I do find it fun to go on Wikipedia and like look at like the Cook PVI, the partisan voting index for like all congressional districts like around the country.
yep,
And you can really see it's like actually really, really compelling to see like where like Republicans are winning Democratic districts and
yep,
like where like vice versa,
yep,
Democrats are winning Republican districts, and then like where like what how like the toss up districts go.
yep.
But so like obviously you're kind of limited to running in a district that that you live in. I know there's not like
You
logging
actually don't need to
laws.
live in New
Okay,
Jersey.
yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
crazy. You
So
need to move there, but to run, you don't need to live there.
did you
You don't
consider?
have to move there though.
Really?
No.
Oh, interesting. Sorry.
No, no,
Why
yeah,
were
yeah.
you able to run?
No, but I thought
J7?
if you win, you have to move in.
I mean, optically, it's like a good look to
But
do
you don't
that.
have to.
But you don't
That's
have
wild.
to. Yeah, state constitution says that you just have to be registered in the state.
That's crazy. I did not know that. So, but just to let you know,
Yeah.
Roselle Park was historically in NJ7. We got gerrymandered out of it, so that's why I kind of felt like it was.
Right. Okay. Because that's kind of my question. Like,
Yeah.
did you? And you don't have to answer if this is controversial, but did you like shop around to be like, all right, which
I wish
district do
I
I want
did.
to
I,
run?
mean, I
in?
should have shopped around. I did not because I felt that was Tom Kaine he is like I respect Republicans who are louder and more annoying because at least I know where they stand. Tom Kaine stands for absolutely nothing. Even before this, like him not showing up to anything, he says nothing, he does nothing. He's got a famous name and he shows up in a suit and he's tall. Like that's Tom Kaine. So I knew I wanted to get rid of him.
Okay.
And if I was I knew the district because we were culturally part of that district. So
Sure. Yeah,
it matched up. I mean, to your point though, there are folks that will shop around for districts, right?
Mhm.
Like you will have people who run for one district and then another time run for another one. So
Or who are actively working in DC and living in DC.
and running for Congress. And therein lies the biggest problem, right? So one thing that I hope I want to start putting this in the universe because people just need to start doing this. The House of Representatives needs to become bigger. It's so arbitrary the number that we have, and part of the reason why we have all these issues is because there's only 435 Congress people.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we need that many. It's arbitrarily capped. If you look at like Germany, Finland, all of these healthy democracies, they have a higher level of representation. That we should have literally like 3,000 congressional people.
Oh my God.
We're not going to have that, but 800 is like a realistic number
Yeah.
that we should have. So we're fighting over all these little districts. It also, the more you make seats, the harder it is to gerrymander too, because it's just harder to make weird shapes, like
Yeah.
physically. I forgot the question. What
I
was the question?
saw that.
You answered it. Just
Oh,
like
okay,
based on
got
like
it.
shopping around for districts and stuff like
But
that.
yeah, but that's the
you're
thing
good.
is, but the worst part about it is so often there are people who are just DC insiders that maybe have some like kind of roots to New Jersey that are like moving back to New Jersey. I always wanted to go home, and you get I think this is a big disconnect in American politics is you don't get a lot of mayors or committee people or county commissioners or whatever that become Congress people because we saw it in like a credit to she replaced Mikey Sherrill.
Anna Lily. I mean,
Anna Lily
yeah,
Mejia.
right.
There we go.
Right. So she was an organizer, but like, all the real candidates in that, the real ones were organizers or DC people or Tom Malinowski, right? The one guy, Brandon Gill, was a county commissioner, like didn't really do that well, right? And it was hard for him to fundraise. So I think that's a real problem in America, but I'm totally going off on a tangent. Yeah.
That's okay. I want to circle back on and kind of that idea of the local people and whatnot, because I think so you want to run for Congress, and maybe this is just my own personal experience with it, but I don't think that we can like skirt over the fact of just how expensive it really is
No.
and how important the money raising aspect is. Like you experienced it, or we experienced it with some of the DC consultants and whatnot. Like let's walk through what it was like actually launching and what it means when you hear these people on day one raising, $500,000. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, it sucks. So, let's take it even a step back, right? Like you want to have sort of your roster of people that you're going to work with, right? So your pollster, your communications person, your treasurer, your video people, right? Like, and they'll sign up for you if they think you're real and they'll kind of work pro bono at the beginning. and then you pay them a lot later. Um, but that's kind of step one, is kind of convincing those people in the Dem apparatus, like getting real names to your account. Like if you can convince them, that's like step one, right? Step two is the fundraising game. And what a lot of people do is they get soft commitments of, they'll call up all their friends, ask for $1,000. And when they launch, they say, okay, day one, we raised $200,000, right?
Is that money in a bank account on day one?
No, it's not. It rarely is. I
Yeah.
mean, unless you like really came in from another race and had it, like no way. It's not in day. They're commitments, right? But you can say it because as long as it can be there, they do quarterly reporting. So as long as you can feel with confidence that it's going to show up in your quarterly report, then you can announce it.
And when you work for venture capital and at Swiss Bank and stuff, you can ask your friends for $1,000.
you would think that is easy. So here's where it's really funny. So there are certain industries that it is easier to get donations from.
Mhm.
Actually, banking is one of the hardest.
Interesting.
And what made it even worse is because I was a sitting mayor, there are so many compliance rules because we invest as a municipality in all these different funds and retirement funds. There are strict rules where a lot of my banker bro friends could donate to me. If I was just a congressman, they could donate to me, but because I was the mayor and oversaw funds going into potentially one of their investment vehicles, they couldn't give me a dime.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why you see like certain industries like, and there's a nuance, but like private equity is a big one because there's just less restrictions on that capital. Lawyers, like
I was gonna say, big law is like.
I love me some lawyers, but like my goodness, there's a lot of campaign money and lawyers involved in politics for a reason, right? And they also have the schedules somewhat flexible that they can make it work. So, yeah. So to go back to Jason's question, we always knew was like we heard you got to do at least 200K a quarter, right? Like, and that's
Yeah.
bare minimum, right? I
Yeah.
think those rules have changed because they've gotten bigger and like every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets in these races now. But like, the crazy thing is, Frank, I dropped out with like okay fundraising and money in the bank.
I think you were at like almost hitting 300,000.
Yeah, yeah. But the perception was, well, Sue's raised 600,000. You can't catch up to that, right?
Mhm.
Like the game's over. So,
Which I think has changed now without the line, because I think that's where NJ11, looking at that, Analylia didn't raise the most money.
100%. Yeah. What the issues we were dealing with were very specific New Jersey issues. That being said, it is whether you're in Nebraska or whether you're in New Jersey, this is where I was really disappointed. The media will not give you the media's proxy for if you're real is how much funding you've
Yeah.
raised, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and they'll ask, right? Like, and this is, I'll never forget it. The Washington Post called me on something and they're like, okay, well, how much have you raised? I'm like, what do you want to talk to me about as a candidate? Like, you haven't talked to me about my positions or anything. It's like,
Mhm.
first, how much you've raised, right? So that's really a big
Yeah.
problem.
And I think that's also the money aspect. It's you don't have to raise the most, but realistically, you still have to meet those thresholds, be it 300,000, 400,000, or just able to keep some sort of comparable pace with the front runner.
Yeah, comparable place is the key term. Let me tell you the craziest thing is so call time. This is the seventh circle of hell, which is basically you spend 35 to 40 hours a week just making calls to random people asking them for money.
Minimum, to reinforce minimum, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and the sophisticated donors, they will ask you how much money you've raised to see if you're real. So it's like, I can't raise money if I don't have money. Like, that's why it's so funny. There's the meme where it's like the guy's really dumb and then the intelligence goes up and the guy thinks he's smart and then the guy's really smart again.
Yeah. The sage.
Yeah, the sage. So I've gotten to the sage level. The dumb guy's like, oh, well, all politics is, it's screwed for the rich and the elite. And then I'm like, no, you can do this. And now I'm back to like, those guys are right.
Yeah.
It's only for, there is a congressional class where if you graduated from an Ivy League school, if you came from a rich family, if you are in certain professions, it's not only is the money available, but culturally there's an acceptance that like, somebody's gonna ask me for $3,000, and because I want to be part of this circle, it's an okay ask.
Mhm.
Like asking my uncle who's done well but is in construction and is like a blue collar guy. He's like, "What am I gonna give you $3,000 for?" Like it's a gate kept thing, Congress.
So we talked a lot about how when you're the candidate, you have to raise just a ton of money,
Yep.
a crazy amount of money,
Yep.
right? Keep pace or comparable pace with the front runner and whatnot.
Yep.
But something that we also talked about the county line and how it's gone away and everything. So something that I think we noticed it last year with the gubernatorial primary,
Yep.
but now this was the first congressional cycle that we saw it and the outside spending.
Yeah. I mean, Malinowski got crushed from it. I
Yeah.
mean, APAC being like I think the main culprit there, just to like send a message. But they're all interest groups, and I don't say interest group in a gross way. Like when you're a mayor, an interest group could just be like the local historical society, right? Like these are interest groups that you care about. It gets leveled up 10,000 fold when you're running for Congress, because you need to cater to, and it's really sad because honestly, your constituency is like almost an afterthought because you need to think about A, who you want to back you in a primary for outside spending, even though you can't coordinate with them, you want them to support you. Um, and B, at least if they're not going to support you, who's not going to screw you over later, right? So, I mean, honestly, a lot of my time was spent with like, the most, I don't want to say like, I don't want to belittle any of these things because they're all important, but like people donate because they care about one specific thing. They don't care about like the whole of the party. So like, I was talking to somebody on immigration, and if I wasn't 100% pro open borders, like I wasn't getting a dollar from this person, right? Like um, when it was Medicare, healthcare reform, if you're not totally for MFA, Medicare for all, you're not getting any money from this group. So like, I- it's this dance that you have to do that like and this is what's bad about primaries, and I don't know how to fix it, is you could have a purple constituency, but you're not getting a dime in fundraising unless you panders. I'm just going to use the word pander to these groups that are like one issue voters. And oftentimes that can bring you further left than the district is. So it's problematic. And what we saw recently is, especially with like, um, I mean, I remember the thing that we prepared for most was like, I prepared for the APAC meeting like it was my SATs, right? Like,
That was
yeah, it's super intense. I
that
not
meeting was insane.
Yeah, and I'm not commenting one way or the other on that today. But what I am saying, and I think we're having a righteous reckoning with that in the Democratic Party is, you know, supporting the state of Israel is one thing, its right to exist is one thing, and support of that security is one thing. What happened in Gaza is an utter catastrophe and a humanitarian abomination, right? And APAC has become a dirty word in a lot of circles, right? And Tom Malinowski spoke out against them. They spent a ton of money against him. Um,
Also, they spend a ton of money in some of the shadiest ways possible, like to the letter of the law that it allows you
yeah,
to go, where they transferred money from their own PAC or raised their donors
yeah,
into a separate super PAC.
yeah,
They literally went to the letter of the law to disguise it, which I
yeah.
think is the problem because what we see is not just APAC doing that, but recently, I think that at the end of last week, a report came out that Republicans were funding Democratic super PACs, Democratic registered super PACs
hmm
that were then going out and supporting or throwing shade at the stronger candidates in a way to
To try
prop
and
up
yeah,
the weaker candidates
yeah,
based on polling data.
yeah.
And at that point, it's so disillusioning. How are we going to know in this age of AI and this age of disingenuine politics? How are we ever going to know which way is up if this is what we're doing?
It's hard for somebody who keeps up with it to know which way is up. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to hone in only on APAC, but like they are definitely the most prominent example that we had to contend with. But every interest group does this, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. But it goes back to the problem of money in politics, right? And how do you get
Yeah.
that out? I don't know the answer.
I think that this most recent primary election in June, the congressional districts alone, which it was two, maybe three of them, so 7, 12, and then a little bit in two, special interest groups in their pre primary filing had spent more than $12 million.
Crazy.
And that didn't include the final week of spending.
And the DNC's like millions of dollars in debt, and we're just spending all this money to fight each other. It's insane.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the campaigns, like, combined in aggregate, didn't spend that.
The consultants are the one who win. The thing that is so suffocating about running for Congress, and something you should know about going into it, is you either do one of two things. You come in and you run on the guardrails that consultants give you, and a lot of them are well intended, right? But their interest is getting on a campaign and getting paid by a campaign, and running those rules of ways that they've won before. I think a lot of that's bullshit, right? And I think part of the problem with Democrats and Republicans is we get these sterilized, you know, like this is why people like Trump. This is why people like Mamdani. This is why I think there's a lot more millennials that can do it like Mamdani, but he's the one that's broken through. Is these consultants, they're super expensive, and that's why you need to fundraise so much. And they whittle you down to the most boring generic candidate that you possibly can be, and everybody's sick of it. So,
Can we talk about the launch video?
well, you need a launch video, and you need to spend $40,000 on a launch video.
And that was on the low end, is what we were told.
Yeah, and look, I do agree. Like, I think it makes it credible if you have a good launch video. Do you need to spend as much money as I did? Probably not. But yeah, on a hot summer day, we all got in my backyard, got my family together, and it was the theme was like Italian American family stuff. We cooked tomato sauce outside. I still owe you guys a jar.
I was just gonna say, I still don't have a can of the Signorello sauce.
Wedding present, it's happening. But we were told, like, you're gonna put this out, and you're gonna get all this Twitter fundraising. We maybe raised like $1,000 that day, from going virals. Everybody thinks like you could just put something out on Twitter and it could be a great video and it goes viral. Does not work.
I remember there was the CIA agent who was doxxed by Trump.
Yep.
She ran, and I don't even know how much she spent on this ad, but it totally went viral. But it was also her driving a race car backwards, being chased by, like, the camera was on a helicopter, which, like, sure, that video is going to go viral because it's basically like the next Mission Impossible 007. Like,
Yeah.
It was a crazy production, but what did she spend on that?
Probably 80 grand, I would say, at least.
80 grand? I think more like 200 grand.
That's crazy. I mean, but it's not even, and I was actually paying attention to this because I was so curious to see how that my cohort did, who was also running for Congress that year. And there were influencers running for Congress, like the cat, I'm blanking on her name, but there were like TikTok, like 2024, was it? There were like TikTok people like coming out of the woodwork to be in Dem primaries, and they were fundraising less than I was, so like, you think, because Bernie did this, Bernie's the only one who could do this. Everybody give me 15. He's the only one that it worked for, him and AOC. Everybody else, like, giving me $15, that's all I need. It just doesn't work. This is why people
Because you need the base to pull that from. You need 300,000 donors to pull $15 from a piece.
Correct.
To add up to something substantial.
Correct.
When you have to raise $1 million, you're not going to do it right out of the gate with no donor list, nothing. At $15 a pop. You're just never gonna make it.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that I bought, which was a stupid thing, which was, I don't even remember. I think I like wiped it from my memory. I spent $30,000,
$60,000, but
on a mailing list.
Multiple. Yeah.
Oh, good God! Don't run for Congress. Don't run for Congress is the answer.
Also, the data, the way we got it too. I just remember it took so much work.
Yeah.
To make anything up, like. You spent $60,000 to buy it
to
before
get email address and phone numbers.
Yeah, then
we can
to
spam
spend
you. Yeah.
like another $15,000 a month to like work the data in and work it over and squeeze out money from these people.
Yeah.
So
again,
just really quick, because like I think my sense of scale, I'm like kind of like lacking in context a little bit here. When it comes to fundraising, like what percentage of your fundraising is like individual donors that you get from the launch video, somebody going to your campaign website and donating, or even like call time kind of individual donors that you're calling, and like from these lists of people that you spent $60,000 on, versus large interest groups versus other categories that I don't even know about.
It's a good question.
You could just do percentage wise.
Yeah. So it changes at different phases. So at the beginning, it's like friends and families, like 60 to 50%.
Friends, family, and fools, right? The same way you fund a startup.
Yep. And the balance of that is like some randos you called, and maybe like the email and text is always it's like a 5 to 10% steady revenue stream, but it's never anything major, right? 5 to 10%, would you say?
Until you get further along, like, it takes 6 months to
Yeah.
get anywhere. We
Yeah.
all say, like, "Oh, it takes 90 days at least," but that's
No, it takes at least 6 months.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to your question, Frank, is you're kind of asking the wrong question, and I don't mean that to be like a jerk. Is they don't come in directly in to support you often.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, like so let's just say like, like the BlackRock, they're just major political donors. And you can see all the partners at BlackRock. They have some, I guess they have some secret meeting that I'm not a part of where they're like, we're gonna donate to these guys. So yes, you'll get some people that donate directly to you, and I would say that's like 20% of your fundraising, right? But the way that they come in is PACs, where the company can donate, right? And they could donate unlimited amounts, and they can spend money on your behalf, right? And in some cases, they could say, hey, I think it's a regular PAC can coordinate, a super PAC cannot.
Super PAC cannot.
Yeah. So to answer your question, is those type of corporation donors are never really a major part of your actual donor base. They are sort of the artillery that comes when you run that spends a shit ton of money for you, paying for ads that you didn't even know were happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It I guess maybe like naively, I was like, whenever anybody mentions like dark money, quote unquote, in politics, like I was like, no, we live in America, like, but
Yeah,
But
we
so- but
live
so-
in America.
but so-
It's like fueled by dark money.
But two things can be true, right?
Yeah.
So there is a decent apparatus to see where the money's flowing directly to a candidate, but that's not dark money. The dark money is in all these PACs and like
Yeah.
layers, right? So you can, I forget what was the limits, like $5,000. Just to call it $5,000 was the most an individual could donate to me. So you have rich individuals who will do that, and then they'll donate $50,000 to a PAC that's supporting you. That's the dark money.
okay.
Yeah.
And now there's the
see.
compounded problem where you have any Joe Schmo can go online and register as a Democratic super PAC
Yep.
in name, and meanwhile be supporting the weaker candidate to give Tom Kane Jr. an easier shot.
We kind of did this too as Democrats.
Yeah, I was
we
about to
would-
say,
we
I
would-
was like, I've heard
We've
about this.
done this in Pennsylvania. I mean, like whatever.
Yeah, but at least we're doing it for the right reasons.
Well, I'm not disagreeing, but I'm just saying like Mastriano in Pennsylvania is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But dark money does exist. It rarely hits the campaign directly.
So let's ask one. We asked you a similar question at the local level.
Yeah.
Was it worth it running for Congress?
No, that was not. I mean, no, actually, I take it back. Like I will probably run for Congress again when I'm 45, right?
So tomorrow? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm out. This series over. So I'm glad I know the ropes now, and more importantly, I'm glad I know I'm never gonna let a consultant tell me what to do again, ever. Like, and if anybody ever listens to this, I suggest you do the same.
Damn, you're gonna sit there and take that, Jason? Political
You're a
consultant?
different consultant. You're a different type of consultant.
There we go. Different type right there.
But-
There's the endorsement I needed.
But actually, my real dream now is I want to make a PAC, right? And I think that's the true way that you can make reform is like whatever your pet project is. And I think we need more sensible PACs that lift up candidates that can actually win. My whole new thing post running for Congress is forget about policy of Democrats. I want institutional change in America. I want DC to become a state. I want Puerto Rico to become a state. I want Democrats to unfuck the system for us because the system has been over many years gerrymandered, and the electoral college, the system just skews conservative minority, right? So one day when I make a PAC, it'll be focused on structural changes because with few exceptions, Democrats very often win the popular vote.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was just going to say. Like DC statehood and Puerto Rico statehood would just do it.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
we can really start to have conversations, not just about Medicare for all as like an idea, but okay, do we want Medicare for all or do we want a public option? Or is that one and the same? Like what does it look like to get there?
Correct. And this is why Democrats, so there's two ways you can fix. The Democrats get really annoyed with other Democrats, especially liberal ones, because They're like, well, the president hasn't done anything. Well, the president needs 60 votes in the Senate to get anything done. So if you don't control the Senate, or you get rid of the filibuster. So I think Democrats we vote with our hearts and not with our heads often. And we really need to be, this is why New Jersey Democrats are so good, is we're very good about, we will get institutional support and we will lock down that base, and then we'll do whatever controversial stuff we need to do.
I mean, look at Mikey Sherrill's resounding victory.
Yeah.
That was like, not everybody was on the same page there, but
Everybody-
it was like, nope, we
Got in
are
line.
not
Yep.
risking this.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
ends, ifs, or buts.
Yeah. So I feel like I went off on a tangent there, but I do think it's important, or just like going crazy, like the Senate isn't a thing in a lot of democracies, right? Like if you look at like the UK, like they have the House of Lords and the House of Commons. They neutered the House of Lords years ago because they wanted more of a direct representation. So you could do that in America. You could it's not easy, but you could make the Senate more of like a ceremonial role, So do I regret it? Yeah, kind of, honestly. Honestly, I tell you what, if I wasn't so scared for my family, I would have stayed in this damn Senate race. And it would have been fun. And I would have got 20% of the vote and whatever, like it would have been fun. So
It's all about the friendships that you
make
made.
along the way. Yeah. And emotional scars. Yeah. This has become less of a podcast and more of a therapy session for me and Jason.
See, and you moved therapy for this. I
Yeah.
told you I'd come full circle for you.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank.
Me with the
close it
closing
out.
question again. Okay. So similar to the last episode, but slightly just tweaking it for the races that we were talking about in this episode. If the right person came to you tomorrow and said, "I want to run for Congress," so if I came to you tomorrow and I said, "I want to," no, I'm just kidding. I would be the exactly wrong
I would
person.
donate to you. Frank.
Thank you. But what is the first thing that you would tell them?
Whew. Everybody tells you this, and when they tell you this, they hear it, but they don't listen. And we have another friend who ran for Congress and heard it, but did not listen. You need to put a spreadsheet together, and you need to put all of your friends and all of your family that will donate. And I
And
hate,
all of the fools, you
Yeah.
know, too.
and I hate that it is this way. I want to close with one fool story. Actually, I'll tell you that I don't know if I ever told you the story. If you cannot get on that spreadsheet to $200,000, don't bother.
It's not 100,000 anymore. It's 200,
Yeah.
250.
Yeah,
Like,
don't-
you've gotta.
Don't bother. And I mean, like, when you go through each row, I want you to mentally go through that call. Even try and call and just be like, hey, if I do this, like, will you give me money? Because you can do a list of $300,000, and that list gets whittled down really quickly for people who say they're going to do it, and then when they have to write a check, they don't, right?
Mhm.
So that's definitely the first thing I would do. But speaking of fools, I don't know if I ever told you this.
Is this gonna give me agita?
No, it's not. But I'll tell you the day that I decided I was going to drop out was we were like coming up on month close, and I was making calls for donations. And this little old lady, I called her like for $1,000 each time. And I just called her up and I was like, I need another $1,000. And she's like, oh yeah, thank you for talking to me. Like I enjoyed 15 minutes with you. Like I'll give you another $1,000. And I just realized I was like, this woman's taking my call because she's like has nothing else to do and she has a lot of money, and like I just felt so predatory in that moment. I felt gross,
The banker? The Credit Suisse banker?
No, she was not a Credit Suisse.
No,
So-
you.
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
former Credit Suisse banker.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. If a banker bro feels gross, and I was like, this sucks, your favorite politician's crazy. Like you can think about whatever one your favorite one, AOC, Bernie, they are a sociopath, and they could be high functioning, but they're insane. Because to be able to get on the call and say, I'm worth $3,000 and you're not getting off this phone until you give me $3,000, you're sick in the head to do that. You just are, So
Well, my favorite politician is George Santos, and everybody knows that he's crazy.
that's right. At least he wears it on his shoulder.
Yeah.
He's pretty open and honest about that one. Yeah.
Not from like a political standpoint, but from like a just like
He's hysterical.
a personality.
A reality
standpoint.
show, because
Yeah.
politics is a reality show.
If he would just stop being involved in politics, I would gladly watch whatever show that he.
Oh no, we're not endorsing Bravo
not?
doing this.
Okay,
It's
fair.
not happening.
It'd
Yeah.
be pretty good. You shut up. You would watch it. You would watch it.
I plead the fifth on
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
one.
it went a little off the rails. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
With that, I'm going to close this out before we get into more trouble. Joe, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks,
As
Joe.
always.
Don't run for Congress.